Today is June 20th, 2026. Let's just get into it. I really want to talk about today. I have all my notes on my computer, trying to become more organized, trying to become better every single day. At least try, because come on, we all have breaks and stuff. But if you tie your identity to your job, you'll take everything personally. And that's facts. Coming from a minority background, especially poor minorities, we grow up and raised with this identity, with this idea that our identity is strictly related to our worth. You know what I mean? Our work is our worth. I mean, I've been doing some black film studies lately. I only have watched 2 movies so far. Don't Go to Sleep Angry and A Brother from Another Planet. I'm trying to watch more black movies. But when I was watching the movie Don't Go to Sleep Angry, one of the most appearing things that kept coming into the movie is the fact that the younger brother is not working enough. So this was always just a big thing about black culture, as a matter of fact, that your work is related to your worth. You know what I mean? I'm fucking born in 1999. I really don't know where it really stems from, but that's what it is. You know what I mean? And just growing up in this modern era is bro, that's just kind of like a slave mindset to an extent. You know what I mean? Damn. But let me not banter off too much. When your identity is tied to your work, you can take anything. You can take most things personally, because your work is your life. You know what I mean? And to an extent, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. Because there's people with jobs that are perfectly happy, perfectly fine. You know what I mean? But also jobs are also seasonal too, in the sense of hey, I'm only here for this season, and we can even make it as far as a chapter. You know what I mean? Sometimes having a job is just a chapter in your life. I'm 26. Show you what I'm going right now. I had at least 21 jobs. I can make a whole list. I'm talking about from working from 3 hospitals to working at BAM to working at a crystal shop at 14th Street. Shout out to Namaste. Actually, don't shout out because I got fired. I had so many jobs, an insane amount. And because growing up, I was always taught that your work is related to your worth. But there's things that happen that just made me not think that way no more. You know what I mean? I remember I was working at NYU Langone for 2 years. I was working as a building service attendant. I was working at a clinic in Cobble Hill. I was working there for 2 years. And you're basically a janitor, right? Everyone can say fucking differently. I don't give a fuck. Straight up a janitor. You just do medical field shit. So it's actually stepped up a notch. You get certificates and stuff like that. You get really good benefits. And both my parents work at hospitals. And they wanted me to work at a hospital. Mind you, I have a sister that went to college and got her bachelor's degree, right? But for me, they were like, yo, since I didn't finish school, I think I fucked up and dropped out, right before the pandemic. They were like, yo, all right, go to a hospital, right? Went to a hospital, worked there, I think, for the first month. I was hating it. My parents yo, once you work in a hospital, it's easier to move around a hospital. As long as you get your hands in it, then you can move to building transporter, or you could do clerk, or mail room, stuff like that. But the only position they had available right then and there was building transporter. I don't have my mic on, fuck. But the only position that they have at the hospital right there was building transporter. I was cleaning up every and anything. I'm talking about vomit, mucus, spit, blood, piss shit on walls. You had homeless people that come into the hospital and take showers in the bathroom. The list just goes on. It's serious. Anything that happens in the hospital, we clean it up. Also, if someone is someone isn't having surgery too, obviously it's literally that. Everything in the hospital we clean up. There ain't no questions about it. Everything we clean up. And if you work in a hospital, you've been in a hospital for a long amount of times, Be at a hospital for 24 hours and see what type of stuff happened. We clean all that up. That's what we do. And I remember I was working that job at 19 years old, and oh my God, I would not wish that job amongst anybody at that age. At 19 years old, unless you grow up in a situation where you need money, you need health insurance, unless you grow up in a situation like, yo, like, this is my profession, this is what I want to do, you really willingly want to do it at a young age, like, I would never recommend being a fucking janitor at a hospital. I would never recommend that. One of the hardest jobs I ever had. And it's the only reason I never would work at a hospital again, because of that. And I remember after 2 years, my old best friend recommended me to work at his job. He was like, yo, bro, you gotta come work at my job, bro. It's lit. We get paid weekly. So where we get paid? How much you get paid? I was like, yo, I get paid $20. Yo, we get paid just the same, $20 an hour. You gotta pull up, all that shit. I was like, word, but I was like, damn, I've been in this job for 2 years. You know what I mean? And I hate it every fucking year about it. I'm not gonna hold you, but I've been there for 2 years. I know my parents really wanted to work that job. I was like, yo, all right, let me listen to my mans. Let me hop on this job. And I worked as a florist in Long Island City. That's a fancy fucking job title. All I was really doing was moving buckets of water and cutting plants at the stem a certain way. And I was just doing all the labor work. It's not a fun fucking job. And I actually was really mad at my friend for even recommending me that job. And they fucking ended up firing me. You know what I mean? They ended up firing me. That's the first job I ever got fired from. You know, I'm 26. I had 21 jobs. I think at that time I was hitting my 13th job, maybe even 15th, somewhere in between. And as much as I hated the janitor job, Jesus Christ, this job was just bad in its own way. You know what I mean? I can get into the details about what made the job horrible, but they ended up firing me. And I remember they were trying to prevent me from getting unemployment. And one of the ways by them preventing me from getting unemployment is that they told the unemployment office that I never completed my background check, my onboarding process. Therefore, they fired me because of that. You know what I mean? Straight up lied. I had to send a screenshot of their email of me completing it. Got my unemployment, right? Thank God. First time I got unemployment. It's a hassle. Oh, it's a hassle to get unemployment. Ooh, call that phone at like 8 a.m. trying to get, it's a hassle to get unemployment. You don't even know about that, bro. Like, facts. Real stuff. If you don't know, you don't know. But side note, go call government Kathy Hochul office and they'll send you straight, like, use Reddit. That's all I'm going to say. And I remember, I got fired from that job, but I know I couldn't tell my pops. I got fired, so I had to tell him I quit. I just quit. He got fucking pissed. He got all up in my ass. He said some extremely disrespectful, mind-blowing things. I remember it like it was fucking yesterday. Obviously I don't remember everything verbatim, but I remember how I felt. And I remember some of the words he said that stick to me. I remember he was like, yo, D, what you doing with your life? Like, yo, you quit boxing, you couldn't finish school, you quit working at the hospital for 2 years, and now you quit this job? You quit this job without having another job right behind you? Like, what's wrong with you, right? Violating me, say mad shit, get mad up in my face, right? Give me the demon eyes and shit, like yo, what's wrong with you? That's how it is. Yo, what's wrong with you, D? Fuck, aren't you a quitter? All that was violating the shit out of me. He straight up called me a quitter in my face. With the tonality I'm going right now, it's nowhere to the extent and high volume how the energy was. You know what I mean? And I remember, like, that shit cracked me, broke me. Having my own father call me a quitter because I didn't want to work a fucking job that I hated so fucking much. I couldn't even tell him the truth that, like, yo, they fucking fired me on some bullshit. Wasn't even trying to give me unemployment. How I couldn't even tell him how much I hated working at that fucking hospital job because it was just so fucking bad. I'm talking about, I was working in the 2020 pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, bro, you tell me, like, I remember Yo, imagine a nurse calling you on the phone because it's a clinic, so they need to call you for emergencies, right? Imagine a nurse calling you before you even reach the bathroom. She's like, I'm so sorry. Take your time. I'm so sorry. Yo, and I go in the bathroom and there's just like shit smeared on the wall, piss all fucking over, and I'm just looking like I don't know where to even start. I'm like, yo, and I was working at clinic, so I didn't have a boss. I had a manager that was at a site at all times, and I'm the youngest person at that place, and I had to clean that up. Like I had to clean that up. Yo, if you don't know, you don't know. But if you know, you know. Some people can do it, but yo, like I said, that's not a job for any 19-year-old. And I remember for the longest that my parents was telling me, yo, you better not lose that job. And I was like, yo, there's no way in fucking hell this is what they see me as. I remember that. I remember like, yo, for 2 years, I just kept my head low. Just worked it. Fuck it. Work it. Workhorse type shit. You know, and just have my father just violate the shit out of me after losing a job I hated to my core. You know what I mean? I remember calling my friend on the roof, just sobbing. And that was literally the last day that I gave a fuck if what he cared about. That was the last day I ever cried about anything my father has done. I mean, I may get teary, but I don't cry. I have never cried ever since that. I think that was around like 2021. Never cried ever since. Ever since that I added anything he said about me. You know what I mean? Calling you a failure. Like, fuck, your own father. Like, god damn. After just losing, and you just quit a job. That's it. Calling you a failure for quitting a fucking job at fucking 21. You know what I mean? And there's so much nuance. Obviously, I'm talking from my perspective. Both of my parents work at a hospital, but it's just the mere fact that I have a sister that went to college and had a bachelor's degree, right? And she went back to college, right? And I only went to college to get an associate's, right? Fuck that up. I had a scholarship, so my parents didn't pay, but they paid for like her to go bachelor's and whatever. And it just really made me feel some type of way because this is really like this is all you see me as. You know what I mean? It's like a worker. You just see me as equal. Like, you don't see me that I could do more. You know what I mean? I could go into details about, like, I did go back to college. I did graduate with my associate's degree 2 years ago. Actually, 1 year ago. Congratulations towards me. You know what I mean? That's a beautiful thing. I paid for my college the whole entire way. My mom definitely helped. She paid for a semester or half a semester. God, glory to her. But it just goes to show, and it goes to say that your job is not your worth. You know what I mean? To an extent, your work is your worth, yes, but your job is not your fucking worth. You know what I mean? That's a very old, ignorant mindset that needs to be changed because a job can fire you like this. Racist shit happens like this at a job. There's a lot of situations at work, having 21 jobs, I've seen it all the time, where it isn't, you could be the hardest worker at your job, but as a person who fucking kisses ass and works sparingly when the bosses notice the most who's in the boss's favor. And that's real shit. Like I said, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with having a job. If it's like, if that's what you want, if that's where you're at, or if that's just the chapter you're at, everyone's in different chapters in life, and everyone's in life for different fucking reasons, right? But knowledge is power, and one of the things that people need to know, especially I wish I knew growing up, at 19, that I'm sharing this message right now, is that you are not determined by where you're at. You're not determined where you're at. And your situation does not define you. And your job does not define you. I had 21 fucking jobs. Getting paid from fucking $12 an hour at UPS, from working at gigs in like fucking Manhattan. I remember like I was a photographer at 19. I was going like doing photography at like Met Galas. I remember I went to like a holiday party for Fox 5 at 19 years old. Your job does not define you. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shit out there. And I think that's all. And I think that's a big reason why I probably just jumped to so many jobs. Is to find my identity, and you're not gonna find it. Mind you, be the type of person who pay your bills, get that shit done, right? Then do what your career needs to be done. You know what I mean? That's what you gotta do. But don't be that person who their identity is their job, because you're gonna take it personal. And when you take your job personal, then anything that happens at your job fucks up the rest of your day, fucks up your life. We all know that person who comes into work with a fucking bad attitude. You know what I mean? We all know that fucking person. You know? But I definitely want to leave it off with a closing sentence. It's like, I'll tie it back with just this, is once you stop working to be seen as enough by someone else, you start creating for yourself. And that's real. And that's one of the steps of becoming an adult. You know what I mean? You're not tied down by where you're at. You're only tied down with the mindset that you have. And if your mindset is infinite, then your possibilities are infinite as well. All right? Much love. May all positive aura, energy, all that good stuff. Let me be even more specific. May all the energies, may all the aura, may all positivity go your way. And everything that you want to manifest, you manifest it. But you got to work for it.